once you learn how to do that, then you can bring in all the stakeholders and you can get into programs that'll help you and train you on how to build it. But that first step is you have to design a business model that is desirable.
When I initially moved back to Pensacola, I had a meeting with Lloyd. Lloyd invited me for breakfast, and I was telling him, man, I still have an idea for the entertainment industry. This is what I wanted to do. He was like, all right, I got Startup on the Blocks. So I need you to start coming to Startup on the Blocks and get a little more information on how to work through the tech ecosystem and take your idea and we'll get you where you need to go. My company is called The Know, is an app that is streamlining business for the entertainment industry. Yeah, so if you're a musician, what you would do is pretty much jump on the platform, you'll create a profile, but the way we created the profile is pretty much a cleaner way. So now if they want more information about you, you'll connect your social media platforms, your streaming platforms, and that way they can go directly to it. What we also have included is your calendar. So pretty much you can set your days, you can set your price for your days and automate your booking. So initially talking to Lloyd, my idea was all here, it was there, it was over here, it was over there. It was like, all right, Quinn, I get it. You got a lot that you want to do, but we need you to bring it in just a little bit and then work on your pitch, your story, and how you're going to bring it full circle to get people to understand what you're trying to create.
Most of the programs here wasn't inclusive, and so we said we'll focus on helping founders of color. We also start at the beginning of the thing, at the idea stage, whereas a lot of the programs you see here locally, they start after you're up, and that's not very efficient unless you have, if you don't have a lot of money, you can't recover from your mistakes. And the lean startup system, it actually helps you make mistakes faster before you spend a lot of money. You don't actually start building anything until you got customer buy-in.
There was a need for small businesses to bring brand awareness to their business. I see there's a lot of makers and bakers that they're making all of these goodies and these products, but they can't market it, they can't sell it at the same time, and there needs to be kind of that middleman, that middle person to help bring economic growth to some of the small businesses in Pensacola. So Taste of Pensacola, I came up with that idea during the pandemic when I saw things at that time that Amazon couldn't fulfill. They didn't even have those products, but the local people in the community, they did. And so there was a ton of people coming out saying, hey, I make masks. I'm like, wow, this is amazing. All the local people here that are just as talented that can actually make those products. And so I wanted to kind of showcase who they were. So with Taste of Pensacola, our income streams, we have several of them. We have the corporate America. We do corporate gifting, just regular consumers, different Pensacola natives that don't live here that want to purchase our boxes, like a taste of weddings, distribution. So we also do bulk sales. So for a private airline, if they want some local snacks and goodies on their passenger flights, they will come to Taste of Pensacola and we will source their vendors here locally. And we'll give a small business owner an opportunity to have reoccurring monthly sales. I've always had a really big vision for Taste of Pensacola. I knew that it could go beyond just local. I know that maybe other communities could possibly use the same platform that I'm trying to build. And I always have these big visions, but I never know how to even get there. Where do I start? I know it's more than, there's a lot of technical things behind it. I know there's a lot of research, but that connection, I never had it until, thankfully, I met and was introduced to Startups on the Blocks and was able to just learn more about how to grow it in terms of data. Things I just never thought about, framework, words like traction. There's a lot of things that I just did not know about and language that I need to know in order to get funding for my business. There's just a lot that I didn't know.
I would go to the stores and look online. They didn't have a wide variety of natural hair products about 8 years ago. And the ones that they did have, the ingredients, it would say that they were all natural. And when I would research the ingredients, a lot of the ingredients were not natural. I make everything, my shampoo, conditioner, I have an oil that I make, and I have 2 different separate butters. Like I had some people who were completely bald and grew their hair. It's about giving women their confidence back in their hair. I have this salon and then I have a second salon, and I have my products in about 5 beauty supply stores. So I need a manufacturer to keep up with the demand at this point. Startup on the Blocks has helped my business grow, send me to different people. I'm able to do different pitch competitions to apply for grants in the community for small businesses. Lloyd's a really good person to connect with. He has a lot of resources here in the community that can help small businesses grow. If you have a product out there and you're trying to go big time, he's the person that you would want to meet with.
So it's really important to have some type of support because 9 times out of 10, most founders start out on their own. And to have somebody that has an idea of how the ecosystem works and is able to tap into other resources and bring back to the community, and that pretty much has encountered some of the roadblocks or going through the same roadblocks that we're currently going through and understands where you're at, your culture and how you respond to things, is a big help because you don't really have too many people that have access to what we have access to here in the community. And a lot of people believe that you have to leave and go to bigger cities to do the things that we're doing here. But I mean, it's one thing to have exposure, but you have to actually know it's here in the community in order to take advantage of the resources. So I get approached and I talk to friends all the time that wants to either start an idea or hear that I'm actually doing the app and wants to know more information about how are you doing it or what's the process, what's the path. I'm like, man, we have somebody here, Startup on the Blocks, Lloyd Richard. And Lloyd is here, he's a great resource to the community and to founders that's trying to learn the ecosystem. So join Startup on the Blocks.
Welcome, everybody. Glad to be here tonight for another session of Startup Founder Best Practices. We're excited tonight. Still, we are expecting Crystal Berger to come on, but she hasn't showed up backstage yet, so hopefully she'll be backstage shortly. But looking forward to the conversation tonight. It's been pretty interesting doing these sessions each Thursday night for the past 5 years. And so, but it's always, I'm definitely looking forward for Crystal because she was on back in 2022, so what, 3 years ago. So we're looking forward to seeing her progress. But let's I'll share my screen and we can give a shout out to our sponsors. And they're the ones that make it happen. And so we're definitely excited about that. So yes, definitely looking forward to having Crystal on. But there she is. Hey, Crystal, how are you?
Hi, Lloyd. How are you?
All right. Yeah, I'm glad to have you on.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, looking forward to the conversation. And I'll just take a minute or two here to kind of shout out to our sponsors and partners. And I guess you can see how this has expanded since 3 years ago.
I can't believe it's been 3 years. Oh, goodness. Crazy.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure your journey has been interesting. Yes. But yeah, so like I think probably because you were on back in 2022. And so I think that following year we partnered with the Blacks in Technology Foundation, and we worked over that 2023 with over 200 of their members all over the world. And back then they had about 30,000 members, and now they got about 40,000. So it's
Okay.
literally help us move forward. And I think about the same time we had just got introduced to Startup Science, and and so Startup Science is a platform that kind of helps founders, learning all the terms and back then it was just they had just the courses and a few perks.
Yeah.
Now it's got everything you could think of. It's got tools that help you find partners, tools that help you do market sizing. All of that is all done automatically for you. You don't have to go do stuff manually. They got.
But you know what? That platform, even though it was manual, it was so helpful, especially as an early stage founder, right? Learning the terminologies and things like that. So for sure.
Yeah. And so now it's expanded to where they got list of all the grants, events, pitch competitions, and all kinds of perks. And so it's like a one-stop shopping for uh, what we need. So we're definitely excited to partner with them. And then, just a couple of years, maybe longer, we partnered with Coda, and that's an application that 80% of the Fortune 100 companies use. And so I say that just to give people attention, But yeah, so it's a, document platform and publishing platform, but it's a really neat concept. And they and Grammarly merged earlier this year, and so yeah, so it's an interesting concept. But the reason why they're popular, and like even with any startup founders application, you want to be able to integrate to other stuff, and so Coda allows you to integrate to every kind of application you can think of, all your enterprise applications, and bring the data in one place. So you don't have to be context switching to go all these different places, and you can bring the data in. So one-stop shopping for all your reports and even your apps. You can pull all the data in from your apps and everything and view it with that. Make Startup, we partnered with them last year. They got an interesting platform. So their platforms, when you fill out an application for a pitch contest or accelerator program or something, it scores your application automatically using AI and gives you feedback on how to improve your application score. And they also offer certifications. And so, and Pitch Bob, just imagine AI application that's helps you pull together all the documents you need as a startup. Your pitch, it develops all those initial documentation that you need just from you answering a few questions.
So like your cap table and all of your projections and all that stuff. Okay.
Yeah,
Awesome.
yeah. So, and they've been steadily expanding. They're out of Israel. We partnered with them a year or two ago, and of course, I think we had Lean Stack, or we're just starting.
Lean Stack,
Yeah, when you got involved, and I guess Bike Innovation, Leaders of Florida. Remember that? Black Innovation Alliance. Have you kind of hooked up with them from a media standpoint?
No, actually, I have not. I have not.
Yeah. So they have a bunch of, so imagine an organization that works with over 200 organizations like the Cocoon Institute, but all these organizations work with Black founders.
Okay.
Yeah, and so that's what that's all about.
Okay.
And Goody Nation, that's Joey up in Atlanta. So we participated in this program, and it was fantastic as well.
Wow.
Yeah. So let's see, these are some of the people that help pay the bills. Yeah. So we and so excitingly, Crystal, we back in 2024, we started the Black Founders Innovation Summit, and we had another one this year as well. We do that in April. Yeah, so Ron, one of our sponsors, he with the Synergy Group, he had been hounding me to do something for for Black founders, and so so we had 2 successful events so far with that. Yeah.
In Florida.
Yeah, in Florida. Yeah. So that's a total chance for people to come to Pensacola to the beach.
Yes. Oh wow. Congratulations on that. Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah. So that's kind of some of the stuff that's been going on since we chatted, and I really appreciated back then too when you were on, you followed up and was offering to help out, whatever way you could, and that definitely was appreciated. But I was so happy when you reached out about potentially doing a media readiness thing. So, are you still interested in doing something like that?
Oh, I mean, absolutely. I would love to, share with founders, of course, like the essentials, the basics of getting media ready, what it looks like, how to build. I mean, a Q&A is great, right? I think some of the common questions that your founders may face. Because there's one thing in the reading it, you can use AI, but there's also the beauty of having someone who did it for quite some time,
Okay.
in the news business. But yeah, I mean, we could, however you want to go, Lloyd, I'm good.
Okay. Yeah. So we'll so, but what does that workshop look like? I guess from your perspective.
For sure. Well, one thing is that sometimes founders get pressed. So we hit it in 3 different pillars, right? Those who
Okay.
need to actually get ready, right? Like, what are the
Okay.
fundamental things you need in your toolkit to get ready for media appearances, right? And
Okay.
then we actually utilize our solution, our new solution, Verified.ai, right? It's a vetting and verification solution that
Okay.
vets talent for media readiness. And so they can put in their credentials and they'll get a media readiness report. It'll tell them all the areas where they're lacking on their public facing persona. And then it
Oh
gives you
wow.
feedback. Yep. And then we have a dashboard where you can go on an automated journey to get you where you want to go. So Lloyd, let's say you wanted to do more podcasts in 2026, right? If that was your goal that you put in, we use that up against the data that we get from your public facing profile. And we say, okay, Lloyd, if you want to do more podcasts or if you want to do the top 50s, these are the things you need to do. And then our solution will give you the prompts and the automations to actually get that work done. And every time you do one thing, you get a check off, and then we let you know when you're mobilized to get booked for media appearances. So you'll get access to Verified.ai. And then, of course, the other piece of it is a lot of founders, once they get press, they don't know how to capitalize on that press, right?
Yeah.
Like, what do I do after I get this podcast booking or this television booking? And so then we have a toolkit for founders to help you propel your actual press in any way that you want. So that's whether you're looking for SEO optimization, you want to rank higher in the AI overview, if you want to learn how to pitch, all those things in readiness for founders.
Yeah, that sounds fantastic, and basically, I had no idea what the idea of the workshop was, but I was happy that you suggested it. But I can see right now, just based on what you said, is we talk about founders and their credibility. Is yeah, and so in the traditional thing, when traditional small business, in order to get capital to grow your business, you may go out and get a loan or whatever. But in the startup world, of course, you can still get a loan, but a lot of opportunities are based on your public facing credibility.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So that that evidence of you making progress with your startup is your credibility. Yeah.
Absolutely. And also, most founders, especially Black and Brown founders,
Mhm.
domain expertise is one of the main things that they look at when you're an early stage startup, right? They really
Yeah.
evaluate, like, you can't just wake up in the morning with you can wake up with a great idea, right? But, with all the other factors that come at play, it's better to have domain expertise. So if you have that domain expertise and it's hidden, right, you're kind of in a setup to where you're not going to benefit the best, right? So we say, hey, if you're a founder, you should be out there sharing. If you're expert, people should know that, right? And if you have a cybersecurity solution, you should be talking about that, thought leadership pieces, doing blogs, going on podcasts, local radio, television, and even doing like social media lives. And so that actual domain expertise could be something that will set you apart when you're raising capital, right? Another
Yeah.
thing that we learned, in our journey of just building this was that 82% of startups fail, not because the product is poor, but it's because of poor positioning. There is no brand awareness, right? A lot of Black and Brown founders who are underfunded, right, or
Yeah.
unfunded, don't have huge budgets to invest in media publicists, right? Because that can get very costly, anywhere from $5,000 to $10,000 retainer a month, right? And so what
Yeah.
we want to do is normalize that for folks who deserve to be seen and heard, right? They're credible, they have the domain expertise, they can deliver in the public atmosphere, but they don't know how to get the bookings, right? They don't know how to get visible. And so, it's a huge piece of raising capital, when you're looking at raising VC dollars, to be attributed even on your local, that is great, right? Because it shows that someone trusted your knowledge base enough to consider you a domain expert to come on
Got
their show, right? And so it's really critical. and we start to take advantage of these free opportunities, right, to get seen and heard. And so if we can position founders to in a way that's really strategic, help them learn what their messaging is, their primary talking points, so that they can really land it. Because I even know for me in raising capital, right, I'm one of the exceptions to the rule who less than 0.4% of Black women has raised venture capital. And I know a big piece of that has been attributed to my actual public facing profile, for sure.
Right.
For sure.
Fantastic. Yeah, and I can't emphasize that enough. Crystal, I wanted you to check and if you got some extra browser things open or something, because you're coming in okay, but I'm afraid it might deteriorate. So like just to save on bandwidth, yeah, just check and see you got
for sure.
Yeah.
And so, I'm randomly.
Go ahead. Yeah.
Okay.
You said
no, I was just saying that I'm randomly at my mom's house, so I'm like hoping that it doesn't. It might just be her. It might be where I am. Yes, I might find my hotspot. I might need to switch.
Yeah. So, but yeah, if we run into a problem, that might be a good idea. But anyway, so that key takeaway from what we were just talking about is that visibility leads to credibility, which leads to funding.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So. And also a big piece of raising capital, right, is that old saying by, I think it was Jim Rohn that says, your network determines your net worth, right?
Okay.
A lot of times you will be able to build your network just off of your media visibility or your public facing presence, right? People see, Lloyd was featured here. He was mentioned in this publication. You don't know who's going to read these pieces or see them or listen to them and then Google you, right? A lot of folks don't know that, if folks who hear about a product in a podcast, they say they're 67% more likely to buy the product, because typically listeners to podcasts are very niche people, right? Like if you listen to a food podcast, like you're probably a foodie, right? And you're more likely to buy and convert. So people don't know, not only is it just raising capital, but even when it comes to the awareness around your products and services, it helps there, right? But it is critical to build that network. And many of us, right? I went to HBCU. I'm an HBCU girl, right? And a lot of times the network might not be as strong with those who actually have that discretionary capital to invest, right? And so you want to be able to expand your network outside of your immediate circle. And some of the best ways to do that is through the media, right? And opportunities of that, because you just never know where your message is going to land. And sometimes people take for granted podcasts and appearances that aren't like mainstream. Don't do that, right? People have tribes, right? People have authentic, organic audiences. And so if you can get on a podcast or even a live stream with the community and share your story, it can truly transform your business, because you just don't know. It could be 5 people, but truly have the link to that investor that you need to talk to, right? Or the link to that potential partner. And so the more visible that we are as Black founders, as brown founders, it's an advantage to us. It is a time investment, but it's worth it.
Oh yeah. And that's why I tell the founders, you can't be an island to yourself. If you're building something and nobody knows you're building it, wow, you're really shooting yourself in the foot,
And it's hard, right? It's hard. And I think that's where we kind of like the level set it, even at Ebo and Vetify. It's like, yes, we know that you're really busy. It takes a lot of work. Like I've been up, Lloyd, since 4:00 this morning with my team, But the beauty of it is that, if you are working in that silo, it's very difficult to build your business. Some folks get lucky, but it's really, really rare. And we need to really own, and I would say make space in our day, right? Or in our month, even if you choose out of the 30 days in a month, 3 days that you're going to intentionally thing related to visibility, related to awareness, that could pay off. Consistency is key, but we have to make that space. And like you just said, Lloyd, not work in a silo, because if people have no clue that you're a founder, how are they going to find, find the work that you're out here? And also, how are you going to really reach your why? right? I think that's one of the questions that we have when you first come into our portal is like, what's your goal? Why do you want to do this? Because the why, more oftentimes than not, will give you the extra energy to actually do the things that you might feel uncomfortable doing, or you might not feel like you have the time to do, like doing press and media appearances.
Yeah, yeah, and so that's great. So let's kind of back up to 2022. Do you remember what's the status of your company? What your situation was?
Oh, a mess, Louis. It was a mess. Okay. Listen, and I'm thankful to you. I don't think you even know, like, you were such a gift because I did, I was just out here trying to figure it out, right?
Yeah.
Especially as a non-technical founder.
Mhm.
I worked in the news business for a decade, so I knew my work. I knew that it was a need for a solution that was going to be automated, right, and to streamline some workflows, but I had
Mhm.
no clue of how to build. So to answer your question, I was like on an island. Like, what was that movie that Tom Hanks was in? I forgot what it was called, but he had the soccer ball. But
Yes.
just like on this island by myself. And I can say, to answer your question, I was really looking for community, like
Yeah.
community building, because I had worked in corporate America for 10 years and nobody at my
Mhm.
job was like an innovator, right? We just went to
Right.
work. And so I didn't
Yeah.
have that community there. And undergrad, I was an English major. So I didn't have a, community of, even like, I wasn't in the business major, or I wasn't in technology or the sciences. And so I didn't really have anywhere to kind of know where to go or to start. And so for me in 2022, I was searching for a community of people
Yeah.
who had done the work, for sure, for sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because like you're on this journey and you don't know, all about what's required in this journey.
Mm,
And that's kind of what I like about the lean stack thing. It sort of tells you what's your next milestone you need to reach. And then
yeah.
like the startup science thing, it sort of goes to the operational level, which phase your business is in, and doing the right thing
Mm,
at the right time. Because what it's saying is, if you in this one phase and you're trying to do something that's three phases ahead, you're doing the wrong thing.
you're doing the wrong thing. Right.
Yeah,
And you could be setting yourself up for failure, right? Like not
exactly right.
having that process or knowing like the steps to take. It doesn't mean,
Yeah,
because I think this is where a lot of founders who don't have like community or don't come from
yeah,
certain spaces, um, you it doesn't mean that your idea is bad. It doesn't mean that
no,
even your product is
absolutely
bad.
not.
But if you're skipping steps, right, you're so vulnerable,
Yeah,
right? And that part I can say, when I met you and you put me on Lean Stack, and I remember like just Googling every single word, like, what is my value proposition? I was like, what is that?
yeah, yeah,
And really being able to understand those things, and seeing now, 3 years later, which I can't believe it, how much, everything is like a building block, right?
yeah, yeah.
And
Mhm,
even with that platform, and I mean, look, guys, I'm not getting paid to say this, just so y'all know, but
mhm.
even with that platform, the way that it was structured, it had you these small boxes in that one. What was it called? The where you put everything on the one, mm, I
The
want to
link,
call it, it's
which
Lean Stack, but it has this one page where you put everything on it. What is it called?
that link
Um,
canvas or the traction roadmap or the
Yes, I think
op-
it's the traction roadmap. I think that's what it was, right? And you put
okay.
everything on this one page, but it's like these small blocks. And so it's like, well,
Yeah.
I can't fit all of my stuff on there, but if you can't
Oh yeah.
fit
So you're talking about the link canvas. So like,
the
and
lean
that's
canvas,
yeah,
that's
yeah,
it.
yeah. And
Yes.
so yeah, so believe it or not, that I'm glad you brought that up because you're putting all this information on there, but you're supposed to take 20 minutes to fill it out the first time. But
Hmm.
and people take hours, but that's you're
Yes.
doing the wrong thing. When it says take 20 minutes, that means there's no long dissertation needed.
Correct, correct, correct. But that was beautiful for me, because now, mind you, I was an English major, so all I did was dissertations, right? And
Yeah,
writing long stories,
yeah.
and so, the beauty of it was, though, even that, being able to consolidate all
Yeah,
of your
get it all
thoughts,
out of
all
your
of your,
head. Yeah,
yeah, and get
yeah,
it in a way that is consumable, right, to
yeah,
other people. is
Yeah,
critical, you know? And so,
that's exactly right.
yeah, that was really powerful. And I think that tool, I still like, it's funny, I had my product manager use it, you know, when she was ideating like another
Yeah.
product that we're looking to build. And she's like, I can't put everything. I was like, yes, you can. You can put everything on it,
Yeah,
you know?
and so, but that brings up another point you may not realize. That is the purpose of the Lean Stack, is to test out ideas. See, back then,
Mm,
yeah,
wow.
and just so you know, I'll run through this just so you get an idea of what the deal is. And this is actually coming out with a new version of this. Just got a briefing on that today. But the basically idea is you put all your ideas in this one lean canvas, called that the big idea canvas. And then the next thing you do is you create a lean canvas for each of your customer segments. So, and they call that variance. And so what you have is you go from one big idea canvas to up to 5 separate canvases, and for each of your different customer segments or
Wow.
variants of your product. And
Okay.
so then you, once you get that, then you stress test each of those customer segments or those variants based on the why now elevator pitch. And so you're doing, so it's a little template for a pitch, and you pitch to that customer segment. You don't go out and actually physically pitch to them, but you create the pitch for it, and for that customer segment, then you think in your mind, is that something this particular customer segment is going to be interested in? So then you kind of maybe eliminate one or two of the customer segments. Then you go to the traction roadmap. The traction roadmap is one thing you might be interested in now, and you can still use that same login to get to that traction roadmap. So the traction roadmap, you set where you want your business to be 3 years from now on an annual recurring revenue basis. So let's say you had $1 million a year now, but you want to go to 5 million in 3 years or 10 million in 3 years. So put that goal in there, and then there's 6 other metrics that you use, but then it prints out a customer factory for how you get people into your customer factory. And then it prints out a traction roadmap to show you all the milestones. You're growing at a 10x rate. And then it prints out, below that, it prints out like a spreadsheet that's for each month, for the 36 months to reach your goal. And it tells you what you have to do each month to get people in your sales.
I'm already sold. Well, let me log in, because serious. Let me log in, because that's amazing.
Yeah. But you use that to test the viability of your pricing model. So you use your pricing model and your metrics, and all your metrics are standard. So the only big variable is your goal that you want to reach. They call it minimum success criteria, and then your pricing model. And so that tells you if your pricing thing is viable. So you don't spend years working on a pricing model that's not viable.
And isn't that crazy though? Like, even that, Lloyd, like, people don't know like how much time you spend trying to figure out how to price this, right? Especially if you are, automating something that used to be manual, right? And so it could be something that's extremely costly on the service side. And you say, okay, well, how do I quantify the value and still make it affordable, because it's being done through automation? And that takes work.
Yeah, and so this particular is called the traction roadmap. But you get all 3 of those things. But you in the beginning, you use that instead of a financial forecast. You use that, but what's powerful about it is telling you can show your investors or your stakeholders the goal, where you're going to be a year from now, another year, and you can then from the printout if I got to get 100 people in my funnel per month, or if I got to get 1,000 people in my funnel per month. And so it helps you understand if you actually, if you really can actually do it. And now, so what happens if your pricing thing is too low? It's going to say, well, you're going to have to get like 10,000 or 100,000 people in your sales funnel. That's not even practical.
Yep, absolutely. Right, because the amount of money you would have to spend on ads just to get that many people in the funnel is just so unrealistic. Correct. Yes. Wow.
So
amazing.
You use that to eliminate maybe one or two customer segments, and then you
Mm.
do the same week you do your feasibility test, and that's based on if you can get off the ground in 90 days. So it's just but yeah, so that's kind of what that is. And then from there you build your business model story pitch, but you use all that information.
Mm.
So what we did since 2022, we created a business idea prompt. You fill in what your business idea in the industry, and it generates all this information for you.
Oh wow. Oh wow. Well, I mean, listen, Lloyd, when I met you, I was like, you're one of the greatest innovators. Like, you've been doing this before. It was like
Uh,
literally, I mean, and I know you've seen that, like, I feel like I want to interview you, honestly, because the
yeah,
evolution of AI and where it
yeah,
is today and how it's
yeah,
changed so much, right?
yeah.
But I think that the more that founders, and again, I'll just lean in, Black founders, Black and brown founders lean into automations and solutions that can help us scale out having exhaust the more than oftentimes than not budgets that are, minuscule, right?
Yeah,
The more effective we can be, right?
yeah,
Sometimes I know we have a fear around our information in certain places and spaces,
yeah,
but if it's something to drive a result for you that would take you, thousands and thousands of dollars, being the most efficient, I think is through automation is just it's a big benefit to us,
yeah,
in this market, in this
yeah,
time. So
yeah. And so the reason, part of the reason for that prompt was the very thing we talked about earlier was people try to write so much in that lean canvas. And so by doing the prompt, it shows you how to write things so other people can understand it. And
mm,
that's what the key is there. And then
mhm,
just this week, or was it last week, I created a prompt that you can take the printout from your traction roadmap, which has a customer factory, the traction roadmap graph, and the
mhm.
spreadsheet, and then the prompt will evaluate your traction roadmap and give you a report on how viable it is.
Oh wow.
You see
Wow.
what I'm saying? And tell you what to
Absolutely.
do. Yeah,
Mm,
tell you what to do, because
mm,
it's kind of hard to understand because it's got all this marketing stuff in there, and but you don't even understand what's going on. And so,
mm,
but it's just to help the founders move through, because it is a lot of information, and it's challenging, but just
mm.
kind of getting to the bottom of that kind of stuff. But you're exactly right. Like when you get all the stuff out of your head and on the one sheet of paper. But believe it or not, I've started on this thing of telling you that it's stress testing. So if you look at what happened, and then right now this month we started our launch program. It's a 90-day program where you actually learn how to sell. You validate the demand for your product or service, and you learn how to do that. But
Wow.
at the end of that, you end up, and when you go into that product market fit, you have one customer segment that you're focused on. So
For
it's
sure.
just the same. Yeah. So you start off focusing on one, so you can get to that product market fit, and that's
Yes.
kind of what the idea is. So, but it's the lean stack is just a way to test any new idea you have. That's all.
Mm.
That's what it's for.
Yeah, I mean,
So,
it's amazing because I mean, now that you say, explain it, but I think that's where also founders need to lean in is like getting uncomfortable, right?
yeah,
Getting comfortable being uncomfortable, right?
yeah,
Because you're gonna have times where you feel like I have no clue what to do in my business or where the intrinsic value is, but it's only gonna take. You got to keep doing it. You got to keep pressing through it. I can even say with us, when we started Ebo, we were specifically focused on bookings, right? Like it was like
yeah.
automating the booking process because I came from
Yes,
the
I remember.
newsroom. And, over time, what I realized was from talking to customers, whether it was on the media side or the consumer B2C side, it was like, the vetting piece. Like,
Yeah,
how do I know that this talent is ready? And then the talent saying, how can I get ready? Right. And
yeah,
so, but that was only through testing the market and finding the right fit. And I want to encourage founders who are watching, don't give up in the process of finding fits. right?
Yeah.
Because if you come from an industry and you know the problem, you live the pain, right? You actually
Yeah.
know that this is something that needs to be solved. Don't quit on it, right? You might just need one little small tweak, right? And it comes from doing the work that you're talking about, Lloyd, that will get you to product market fit. But once you find it, it's like that sweet spot. You just keep building on it.
Yeah.
And so that has been a gift.
Yeah, and so when you look at your story, and we'll review it again here in a minute, but when you look at it, so you spend years in the industry, and then you, at some point in time, you got the idea to kind of figure out a way to automate this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But in the processes of doing that and getting that launch, you found another problem that your customer had, and you built a solution for that. And
Yes.
so you're probably going to find something else in the future. But my point I want to make is you're even though you were in the industry, it wasn't technified. I guess it wasn't using technology, but then you saw the problem. So, but you have to use technology to help solve the problem. In your case,
Absolutely.
Here.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Now, Lloyd, I just want one little note. I'm seeing on my side it says recording error. Are we good?
Yeah, we're good. And so what it's probably doing, since your internet thing is a little slow, it's trying it's trying to store the information on your laptop. But see, if your laptop is full, then that see what happens.
That's what's going on. That's what's going on. Found a life, but I'm sure my laptop is.
What's the neat thing about it is that interview that recording is not dependent on bandwidth. So even if this bandwidth was bad, what we're streaming, that recording, but it does need the space to do that. I guess I have to remember to tell people that I didn't. Yeah. But that's what it is. It's that way because typically what I do is I take that local recording of you and then send it back to you so you can use it to kind of
for sure.
For wherever way you want to. Yeah, and with all the new editing tools now, it makes things a lot
easier. Thank God. Yeah.
But so let's kind of back up and talk about your journey, because some folks are new and probably didn't see your thing. So let's kind of review your journey a little bit from your career, to you, just briefly, and then what led you to do the EBO and then Vetify, I guess. And kind of some of the challenges you had as a founder trying to get through this process.
Ooh, that's a loaded question, Lloyd. I mean,
Well, I can help but that's just an overview of what I kind of want to do. Because what I've seen is you worked in the industry, and you can kind of tell me. So, like, you were what was your career job was actually doing it? Yeah.
Yep, for sure. I mean, and so it's funny. So, going way back, when I was like doing hair in my mother's basement when I was like 12, right? So I always was like an entrepreneur at heart, right? So at some point I knew I wanted to have a business. And so that was there, but I also had a dream of being a journalist. And so I started out in network news as a as an affiliates coordinator. First, I was working with all of our local affiliates across the US, about 1,300 stations coordinating. And then I got promoted to a senior booking producer. And so I was booking talent manually, right? Like sourcing, vetting, and then coordinating all of the details to find talent and put them on air. So that was the role. And then I later had a national podcast that was on SiriusXM, also on 1,300 stations, and I also had a national. I don't remember that part of the story, but that sounds yes. I had a news feature that ran on 1,300 stations for 4 years. Yeah. And so it aired every Friday at 1 p.m. And so I really loved doing that. And so that was my career, And so in that process, I was always looking for talent, right? And during my time in network news, I was the only Black woman in my newsroom for a decade, right? Full time.
That's crazy.
Yes, it was crazy. It was crazy, right? But being in that position, like as a gatekeeper, it really was the default of like my Rolodex and who I would find. As long as they were credible, right? I
Yeah.
could take any talent to my senior editor and say, hey, this person should talk about, national security. This person should talk about, tsunamis, whatever it was.
Yeah.
And but that process was long. It was overcomplicated. It could take days and weeks to do the work. And so, especially in a breaking news environment, it was always a challenge. So the way that the idea of Ebo came about was, we were in the newsroom, and if anybody who works in news knows that you don't get a chance to go to the restroom. Like, you are working, you get a friend to bring you coffee. It's not like you have time to be out of your seat, because you never know when news is going to happen. And so the day that I got the idea for what became Ebo was, I went to the restroom for 3 minutes. I came back, news had broke at the White House. My senior editor was going crazy. He was like, Crystal, something just happened at the White House. We need a guest for anchor coverage. Where did you go? And so, Lloyd, at that point, I was like over it, right? Like, I was like, oh, I'm just done with this. And I remember saying to myself in that moment, these people can't book a guest without me physically being in this seat, right?
Yeah.
Went back to my desk, found a guest from my Rolodex, because I had been there at that point for about 9 years, and got someone on air really quickly. But that's just rare where you can find a talent, they're available in a moment's notice. And so I sat there and I said, God, why am I still here? And I got a divine download. I never wanted to be a founder, like, of a tech company. I knew I was going to be an entrepreneur, but not knowing about, that part. And it was like, automate your job. And I was like, what? The voice was like, what? I was like, what? It's like, automate your job. And so that actual day, I sat at my desk. I used to have a legal notepad in my drawer at work, and I pulled it out and I wrote down like 8 pages of notes on how I did my job, like every single step. And then when I finished, I looked at it and I was like, wait a minute. This is a thing, all of the pain points, all of the people who touch, from publicists to executive producers to the stations, the listeners, the audience. And I was like, wow. And so from there, I stayed in the newsroom for a while longer. And then when everything happened after the pandemic, George Floyd, just was so much social unrest. I was burnt out from being in news. And it was like, you know what? I'm going to build this thing. And so I resigned from my job, and I started taking, I took 2 classes with the General Assembly, right? Free classes with General Assembly. And one was like the basics of like coding. And I was like, I'll never take that again. Right. I'll never do that again in my life. And I haven't since. And then I took a product management course.
I remember that.
Yep. And I was like, this is cool. Like, I could, like, I felt like a product. And I've always, it's so crazy, Lloyd, because for non-technical founders, I believe, you don't know how much you're a product person until you're like building a product, right? Like, I've always loved like body butters and perfumes and anything product-y, and I could just dissect it. And so the same concepts were like in my brain when I was looking at how to, manage a product. And so when I took the class and I realized, okay, Crystal, you could do this, and this is the starting point. That's how I got started with Ebo, and how we started to build. Yeah.
And a lot of people don't know, and this is not a founder thing, this is like a career thing, that the product manager is not necessarily a technical person, with a technical background, and that's a high paying job, for a lot of these companies.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely. You're gonna pay for your product manager, you better believe.
And a lot of people have those skills and don't realize they have those skills, and they could be in the tech industry with a non-technical background and make things happen, so that's
absolutely. Absolutely. And if you're working a job, right, and you're actually keeping things in order, right? Like the work that your job, the thing that you put out from your job is the product, right? And if you're actually creating processes to ensure that product gets to the market, right, then you're managing the product. And so it's interesting how it came to be for me. And so That's kind of where it started. And initially I had an outsourced team, right? Remember that outsourced team?
That's right. Yeah.
Right. And the outsourced team wasn't outsourcing, right? They weren't doing what they were supposed to do.
Yeah. So
And
let me come
uh-huh.
let me come on that, because so many founders make this same mistake, and they outsource that software development. And so I remember at the time then, your product, they had delivered it to you, but they didn't have any instructions on how to maintain it or how to do this or how, they just
Nothing.
handed it
No
over to
infrastructure. No,
launch.
yes.
Yeah. But how did you overcome that? Because if I were, because I remember I hadn't talking to you, but I remember you were working on that part of it, when the
Yes.
last we spoke. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
you know,
how did you overcome that?
yeah, for sure. And you know what? It's so crazy. And I'm not trying to be funny. I'm not trying to sell my product or anything like that, right?
Yeah.
But long story short, you were on a journey with me, and thank you for validating that, because I tell my team today, right? But long story short, in the process of me trying to work through that mess with the outsourced team,
Yeah.
I had gotten invited to speak at a conference. This goes
Okay.
back to the media presence, right? And
Yeah.
the network.
Mhm.
Got
Okay.
invited to speak at a conference. I go speak at this conference, and I randomly meet a gentleman on the elevator. We hit it off. Come to find out, his nephew had been in YC twice and had sold 2
Wow.
startups.
Okay.
Yes. Okay. And I'm telling him about what I was building. He's like, you need to meet so and so. And so I meet with and his nephew ended up living in Baltimore, where I stay.
You're kidding. That's kind of fortuitous. Yeah.
It really, really was meant to be, honestly, Lloyd.
Yeah.
And he ended up becoming my lead technical advisor, and
Wow.
he helped
Fantastic.
me build my team one by one, right? So when I say there is a power in coming and participating in everything that you have, because you do not know who you're going to meet. And I tell you, that's how I built like the strongest team. Now I have 26 team members.
Wow.
And it's a lot. I can't like I've
Yeah.
stopped. We're not hiring nobody
Yeah.
else right now. But
Yeah.
but all of that to say, it's critical to have your own team, because it's about accountability, but
Yes.
also, nobody's gonna be passionate. This is how I feel. This is not a
Yeah.
fact.
Yeah.
Right. But if people aren't invested in the why, right, as a
Mhm.
team member, meaning they're coming in every day, they're collaborating, they're held accountable for, bringing ideas to the table, for fixing problems and solving problems together. Having an outsourced team is very difficult to replicate that energy. You know what I'm saying,
Yeah.
Lloyd?
Mhm.
And so even if you are the level of commitment to the vision is critical as an early stage founder, right? And you really need folks who are going to be present in the building of your vision, right? And
Yeah.
and I just don't think you can accomplish that with an outsourced team if you're building something from scratch, right? Now, if you're
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
like, doing like some type of bot or something like that, that could be different. But if you're building an entire solution
Yeah.
that's based on a grander vision, I
Yeah.
think you need to have your own team to be able to build and scale for
Yeah.
sure.
But what I heard you say, you characterize this person you met as like a tech lead. And so he
Yes.
knows the technical stuff. And so a lot of people go out and hire people without getting advice from a technical person that knows what's required. And that's the mistake
Absolutely.
most founders make. And is
Absolutely.
they go out and have somebody build something for them. They don't
Mm-hmm.
get the technical advice to know what's required to build something great. Yeah.
Yes. And another thing I want to say, Lloyd, on that is, founders, don't be intimidated to do due diligence, right? As founders, it's your vision, right? You
Yeah.
have the permission to ask 1,000 questions. And if you are working with a technical lead, or if you meet a company that says they can build something for you, and then you can't ask them questions, that's a problem. Like, you have to really feel comfortable, like, asking as much
Mhm.
as you can, because these people are going to be on a very long journey with you as well. And the more you pry, the more you can see who is not necessarily technical, right? Right. Even, it's a lot of things in that. But yes, one of the greatest gifts was me like relinquishing my control, right? And saying, okay, I have someone who is an expert in this, right?
Yes.
And
Yeah.
I trust their authority to be able to guide me, right? And so a lot of founders need to actually free themselves by giving themselves permission to bring in the subject matter expert that will be able to guide them on the journey. It's invaluable for sure, for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. So the next step in the journey, I'm not really sure, but did you do pitch competitions, or did you do accelerator programs to raise money? So how did you get the money to kind of move forward?
So, well, I did work in I don't advise this. Let me just say this, right? I do not advise this, Lloyd.
Okay.
I used my own money at first.
Yeah, I remember that part of it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
correct.
because
Yes,
you had used all your money by the time we met.
Yes, I was clear. I was like, Lloyd, now look, I got a little bit of money left, but it ain't, So,
Yeah.
I started off with my own money. And the reason I did that was because the VC landscape, right? Because I came from network news, a lot of my contacts were in like seed round, Series A, right? So people were putting me in touch with the wrong type of investor. They weren't putting me in touch with the early stage investor. So I was getting a lot of rejection and I was getting very discouraged. And so I said, you know what? I have my own money in the bank. I'm just going to use my own money. Right. Then from there, after using up my money, I just started to network. The network piece of it, like you said, if nobody knows that you're building, or if nobody knows that you're a founder, they can't help you, right? And that is a big piece of raising capital. That's a big piece of bringing your innovation to life. And so once I started telling people, listen, I need money, right? And I deserve money, right, to build this innovation. And it literally came from someone in my network. They were at Venture for America. She called me one day and said, Crystal, how can I help you? What do you need? And I said, I need cash. I need the cash to build this. And so she put me in touch with a gentleman who ran like an angel network.
Yeah.
And he said, listen, I know this guy who I think would love you. Put you in touch with him. The minute I got my first angel, because of his credibility alone in the VC landscape and him being first in, it opened up other dollars. And I ultimately got funded by a state fund in Maryland, TEDCO. They came in as my primary VC, in their social impact fund, right? Okay. And so I would encourage founders, again, Black and brown founders, look for your social impact funds that may be government funded funds. It may sound crazy, but they have like millions and billions of dollars that they get from the state that are investing. They deploy to different funds across the region. Reach out to those because they have the commitment to, investing in startups that will actually bring, revenue into the economy. Right. And so that's a great place for a lot of Black and brown founders to start. And so that's how I ended up starting to raise capital. I'm raising another round now. I'm raising another round now. A $2.5 million round now, which is, I'm very early in the raise, but I have some really great leads. But we have got to get comfortable being uncomfortable, meaning talking to people who you feel like you would have never talked to before, really going out on a limb and being okay with knowing and having conviction around, I know that this thing will win, and sharing it, right? One that whole fearful piece of, I can't share my idea with someone because they might steal it. Listen, if they steal it, they steal it, right? There's nothing, they were going to steal it anyway. You know what I'm saying, Lloyd? But
in your case, and this is what I tell people, your background makes the difference in what you're doing, and you're verified. I hadn't heard about that until we could reconnect it. But that's based on insights you got from your customers.
Customers and my mental scorecard, right? If anybody could vet and verify talent, it's me. I did it for 10 years, right? I booked over 140,000 talent in my career in news, and so nobody can duplicate you. Right. And again, the earliest innovation funding comes because they're investing as you as in a founder. They're investing in your idea, but they have to believe that this founder can bring the product over the line, right? So they're investing. Correct. Right. And so they can't steal you and your team, right? Even if they try to replicate your ideas. And so, I'm grateful that we actually own the trademark, US trademark for vetting and verification, and so I say that we're the first ones to do it and, doing it well. And so, but yeah, we just got to play the game, Lloyd. We got to get in the game, right? In order to play the game, we got to get into the game. And so I encourage founders to just start being comfortable just going and telling people what you're doing and telling them what you need, right, to scale. And you'll get to the right person for sure.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So yeah, I think if we can take anything away from our conversation is, that visibility is a lot, networking is a lot, and just, the fact that we all come from unique experiences and yeah, and so it's kind of neat. So like from like one thing the with let's see, I guess I didn't plug my laptop up here, so I guess I better stop and do that. I don't remember unplugging it. I just got a little ding saying I'm running low.
That means it's a powerful conversation, Lloyd. That means it's a powerful conversation. That's what that is.
I hope I'm all plugged back up now. Yeah, I don't remember it coming loose, to be honest with you. But I lost my train of thought now. But the bottom line is there's, I'm going to see if I can start over. We start off with the visibility piece, and we got that straight, how important that is, and then you also said that the networking piece in that we see how important that is. But you were actually going to speak and you just happened to run into somebody, but it's all because you're out there doing something, not because
Absolutely.
you were in your silo building stuff, and that's important. And so I guess now you say you're getting ready to do this raise, and so, but it sounds like the key thing for you is it sounds like you got your team together, and now there's no doubt whether you got the capacity to build whatever you say you're going to build.
For sure. Because I think this team is critical. And now also, one thing that I had to commit myself to, Louis, because at first I was really resisting learning about tech. Like I told you, I took that one coding class and I was like, I'm done, right? But I realized that, I was doing myself a disservice by not learning as much as I could, right? When I, learning what an API is and how it works, and learning about how my models are scaling, and actually going and looking on the back end of my AWS and saying, okay, what is this EC2 container and what does it do, right? And having that kind of understanding, even if it's a surface level, it gives you an advantage because you can actually have strategic conversations with your team as they build, right? My team just did a migration off of Lambda to putting some things back into EC2. The cost of that. So when you're running a business, knowledge gaps can either, hurt you or kill your business, right? And so I had to really embrace like learning again, like learning something that felt a little uncomfortable, but I made language for myself. So to answer your question is like, yes, I feel very comfortable and confident with my team. For this raise, it's really about scaling the infrastructure, right? From the intelligence standpoint, the more traction you get, the more it costs, right? To sustain.
So, but I wanted to make sure of this, and then we'll, if the audience have any questions, they can go ahead and post them because we come to a close here. But I just want to make sure you're leveraging the startup resources from the and you may be too late based on how old your company is, but you may not be. But are you leveraging the Amazon or AWS startup program?
I've I've done a few. So I had some credits with Amazon,
Like,
AWS.
how,
But I'm
like
not.
how much? How much? That's what I'm.
Oh yeah, it was like 150,000.
So yeah, so I just want to make sure you were using all of that to
Hmm.
make sure. Yeah, so
For
that
sure.
I'm glad to hear that for there for sure. And I'm assuming since you're doing this raising, you got all your um I think you're in a really good position, to based on what I'm
Mm-hmm.
hearing from your team, and so just so you know, every morning, like I listen to the podcast from my Google News feed, the AI podcast, and then I
Mm-hmm.
downloaded HUXC AI app, and it does a podcast based on my interests as
Mm.
well, and also,
Okay.
yeah. But anyway, so every day I'm hearing about all of these rounds that founders are doing. I mean, like,
Mm.
and people say there's no money out there, and I'm hearing,
Oh,
at least
it's,
five,
yeah,
six, seven different ones every morning. You know,
it's
it's
money out here.
it's literally
It's who is getting the money. It's money out here.
yeah, yeah,
Believe
yeah.
that.
But so how much is AI entrenched into your two? Is Verify a separate company or just a trademark, or is it?
It's, it's a trademark. It's a trademark, and it's under EBO. It's under EBO,
Okay,
right?
gotcha. Yeah,
And so yep. So we have filed a patent for that innovation as well.
yeah,
And so what I do foresee long term is that it'll be into other like communities of people like LinkedIn, right? I would love for LinkedIn to be a customer that integrates a Verify into their back end so people can actually get vetted right and verify for your
Well,
readiness and
and
visibility.
you heard that OpenAI was coming out with a competitive product um, for LinkedIn. I don't know if you heard that
For
or not.
yes. Yeah, I heard about the capacity as long as they've been capturing data on folks and like kind of stuff. So I'm
Yeah,
not
yeah.
surprised at that. But one thing I want
Oh
to
yeah.
just say, I know about the RAB, around
Okay.
funding for founders, be learn about the language of raising capital.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
And how you can structure your rounds because a lot of times we think we have to give up a lot of equity in our companies and we do not. Right.
Right.
My two earliest investors, I have one is on an MFA safe, right? And then the other one is on a convertible note. And so what I can choose to do after a 5-year term, right, is if I choose to, I can distribute equity or I can pay them back with interest, right? And so I
Yeah.
own a significant amount of my company,
Yeah.
more so than any founders that I know. And so I want to
Right.
encourage people to really understand the language of how to raise capital, do some studying on that, listen to podcasts on it.
Yeah.
But the money is out there, Lloyd. Like, I mean, I think in 2024, what was it, 341 billion dollars was deployed to AI startups. Now, for
Yeah.
Black and Brown founders, it was less than $1 million, but
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
money is out there.
But but I guess what I was getting to. So how entrenched is uh, Ebo leveraging AI? I guess in the product or service. I guess that's what I was asking.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. So we built our own models, right?
Yeah.
Which is pretty costly. And so I would say maybe about 30% of our solution is artificial intelligence, right?
Gotcha. Gotcha.
We do some sentiment analysis, we do recommendations and things like that. So it's a mixture between, back end coding, right? And
Yeah.
also AI. But
Yeah.
it's enough. It's enough to
Yeah.
keep us competitive, right? To keep us
Yeah.
competitive. Yeah,
Right.
for sure.
And
For
that,
sure.
and yeah, and just yeah. So, but yeah, so but and so but I guess the reason why I was asking the question is if you categorize your product as a AI
Mhm.
product, then you people can kind of pay attention to you as a AI startup. You know?
Absolutely. And
Yeah.
fund you accordingly.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying, Lloyd? That's the truth, right?
Yeah. That's
Yes.
exactly.
I mean, because a lot of these solutions that you get on, like they're okay, but a lot of the AI, their models are still very wonky, you know, they're still being trained, you know, it's a lot of iterations happening. And so, you know, it's still opportunities for us to be in this space and to scale well, right? And automate as much as, and really get in it, you know. And I never would have thought, first off, I would never would have thought I'd be a technology founder, right? But then also to say that my technology is an AI software, which it is classified as, you know, it's crazy. Yeah, but it's fun and I'm learning a lot.
And I guess that's another takeaway from you as a founder, a non-tech founder. And that's what I try to tell people. People automatically count themselves out of the startup world because they're non-tech. But I said, if you want to grow your company, it's going to take technology to do it. And so, so they won't even participate in the startup world because they think they're non-technical. But you know, that's the biggest mistake I see founders making. If you got an idea, you can leverage technology to build it, and so that's kind of. And I just want to throw that out there because I think people are losing out and not participating in all these opportunities because they think they're non-tech.
Absolutely. You just gotta find, like you said, you just gotta find the right people. Once you find your people, right, you can build anything, right? If you can manage people, you can build anything, right? If you can motivate people, you can build anything. And that's kind of where I sit.
Yeah, and that's really what that lean stack, that business model design is. So once you learn how to pitch what your idea is, and you got a business model on how it's going to grow and make money, that's the thing that allows you to bring your team on.
Absolutely.
You can't convince them you can make any money. They're not coming.
They're not coming.
Yeah, and that's why you learn how to do that. But did we miss anything about your journey or anything? Or
I think the only other part of it is that you know, I would just say to the audience, don't forget to have fun. I know it sounds corny, because it can get so right, it can get so crazy, and you can lose sight of, like, you know, your why, and you can get discouraged, like even in raising capital, like I mentioned to you initially, right? I wasn't having fun with it. And I have a girlfriend, she actually made history in the amount of capital that she's been able to raise as an Afro Latina, I think over 30 million, right? And I asked her, I said, how do you raise so much money? And she said, girl, I don't take this seriously. She's like, I just go and have fun with it, you know? And that changed it for me, right? Like the day that I started to get frustrated with my team as we were building, I had to step back and say, Crystal, this is not the energy you want in your business, right? So if you're building and it's not really kind of looking the way you want it to look, then just try to figure out ways to have fun with it again, and like creating something that doesn't exist or building a new feature, right? Because that's what will get you over the hump. Because, you know, a lot of the things we hear in the rhetoric can sometimes also discourage you on this journey. And so I think that's one of the main things I found myself having to get back out here. And that's when I reached out to you, right? Because folks were coming to me and saying, Crystal, you know, I haven't seen you in a while. You haven't done any lives. You haven't been out there. And it was because I was like in the weeds, you know, in the trenches. And I forgot like how important, you know, my voice is and how much I enjoy like sharing, right? Just information and things like that. So right, kind of tapping back in, like when you're getting those feelings of discouragement, frustration, you know, whatever, just leaning back into the thing that you have fun with and bring it back to life, right? And I think that's a critical thing that founders need to hear, as they build and execute, for sure.
Gotcha. So I'm happy about everything. So glad you were able to get back on. So one last kind of thing is, so this workshop you're talking about, this, you know, getting ready for press or visibility or whatever. How long is that workshop typically?
So it's about an hour and 30 minutes. We give pre-work and we give after work, right? And also what we're about to start doing, my team and I, Lloyd, we're going to be doing Tech Tuesdays, where we're going to be doing demos live on LinkedIn at noon on Tuesdays, noon Eastern. And so folks can join those, and we'll do them people can sign up for the demos, and then we'll also talk more about the workshops from there, because essentially the workshop supplements the product Verify.ai, right?
Okay,
And so
good,
as
good.
you're taking you're going on your media readiness journey, we're giving solutions, tips, tools, and like a community to actually help you execute that. So you can look on my LinkedIn, like I know you've posted me there, and then also we'll have more on the Tech Tuesdays, where they can actually come and participate in the demos and also learn more about the media readiness workshops.
Yeah, media readiness. Okay, all right. So that gives me a better idea, and so we'll chat a little bit about that later. And so next week we instead of our traditional event, we're going to have a demo day for our cohort 6 of our flight program. So believe it or not, just throw this out there for you, Krista. So we've been doing this thing every Thursday night since 2020, August of 2020. We missed one event in the whole 5 years, so we well over 250 things, and yeah, and so yeah, and so, but it's, I think you one of the first to come back and kind of shared your progress over over the years. So I really appreciate that for sure. Just wanted to let you know that.
Oh, thank you. No, Lloyd, and thank you for being who you are. I don't think you
Yeah,
know how, I mean, I know your work has impact, but like
yeah.
you were one of the first people on my journey, and it was just inspiring to meet you and just all the support
Mhm.
that you just continued to pour into me. So I definitely want to say thank you for having me
Okay,
back,
you're welcome.
and
You're
being,
welcome.
a key pillar, a piece of that beat start that it was priceless. So thank you so much for
All
sure, for
right.
sure.
Yeah. Well, you take care, and I guess if your computer didn't have enough space, I don't think there's no solution for that. Next, but I learned my lesson. I'll make sure I tell people they got to make sure they got some space. But if it did record, then but it doesn't finish recording, there is a link, but it has to be a record. Stuff like that. All righty,
But people can still access the link
yeah.
from your side,
Oh
right?
yeah,
They'll
yeah,
be
yeah.
able to.
And
Yeah,
I can definitely use what we have, and yeah. So just so you know, it's on LinkedIn, streamed on
yep.
LinkedIn, YouTube, and Facebook, and it's also streamed on the TV station. So you're all over the place. All right,
Yes.
all right. We appreciate
Thank
you.
you,
We'll see
Lloyd.
you soon. All right, bye
Yeah,
bye.
see you soon. Thank you. Thanks, everyone.
All right, bye bye.